welcome. You know, right this second, inside trillions of your cells, there's this lightning-fast communication network making critical decisions. And no, this isn't sci-fi. It's the JAK-STAT pathway. You could call it your body's most important internal messaging service. So let's dive in and see how it all works.
So think about this for a second. You've got a signal, maybe a hormone or something, floating around outside a cell. It needs to give an order to the DNA, but the DNA is locked away deep inside the nucleus. So how does that message get through? How does it breach the cell's defenses and reach the command center? Well, the answer is this really elegant system, the JAK-STAT pathway.
To really get how this message gets delivered, we first need to meet the main members of the team. The best way to think of them is like a highly specialized relay crew, where each player has a super specific and crucial job to do.
Okay, first up, we have the receptor. And honestly, the best analogy here is to think of it as the cell's satellite dish. It's sticking out from the cell's surface, just scanning and waiting to pick up one very specific signal from the outside world. This is our first point of contact.
Hanging out just on the inside of the cell attached to that receptor is our second player, JAK, which stands for Janus kinase. Now, a kinase is a type of enzyme with one big job. It slaps phosphate groups onto other molecules. This whole process is called phosphorylation, and you can just think of it as a molecular on switch. It's the action that really powers this entire pathway, taking that initial signal and amplifying it so it can be sent on.
And here's a cool little story about the name. When scientists first found it, they kind of dismissively called it just another kinase. But as they realized how incredibly important it was, they upgraded the name to Janus kinase, after the two-faced Roman god. And as we're about to see, that name actually fits its function perfectly.
And that brings us to our third and final player, STAT. Its full name is basically a perfect job description: signal transducer and activator of transcription. But let's just call it the special career. Its job is to grab the signal that JAK just amplified and carry it all the way to the DNA to turn on some specific genes.
So, we've met the whole team. Now, let's watch them in action. The whole thing is this super elegant and rapid-fire chain reaction. Seriously, it's like watching a set of dominoes fall, one right after the other in perfect sequence.
It all starts when the signal molecule arrives and grabs onto two receptors, pulling them close together. Now, this closeness is the key, because it lets their attached JAKs reach over and activate each other by adding those phosphate tags. That's the cross-phosphorylation. Next, these fired-up JAKs turn around and tag the receptors themselves, creating these perfect little landing pads. And that's the cue for our courier, STAT. It uses a special part of its structure, kind of like a key called an SH2 domain, to lock right onto those landing pads. Once it's docked, bam, JAK tags it with another phosphate. That's the final on switch, causing STAT to let go, find another activated STAT, and pair up, forming what we call a dimer.
Okay, so our courier has the message and it's paired up. It's ready for the final, most important leg of its journey. This activated STAT pair is now all set to make a special delivery right to the cell's command center, the nucleus.
And at this point, the STAT dimer isn't just a courier anymore. It's been promoted. It's now a fully authorized transcription factor. You can think of it like it's been given a VIP all-access pass. And this pass is what lets it waltz right into the nucleus, the high-security vault where the cell's precious DNA is kept.
And this is where the system gets really smart. See, if two identical STAT proteins pair up, that's called a homodimer, it'll go and turn on one specific set of genes. But if two different STATs pair up, a heterodimer, they can deliver a totally different message and activate a completely unique set of genes. It's how this one single pathway can create so many different results. It's amazing. So once it's inside the nucleus, the STAT dimer doesn't just stick anywhere. It actually searches for a very specific address on the DNA strand, a sequence called a cytokine responsive element. This is what makes sure the message gets delivered to the exact right spot to turn on the exact right gene. Precision is key.
Okay, so we followed this message all the way from outside the cell to the DNA itself. But so what? What does all this microscopic stuff actually do? Let's connect the dots and see the real-world actions this pathway is responsible for in our bodies.
And I want to be clear, this isn't some quiet side street in your cellular city. No way. This is a major communication superhighway. We know of at least 30 different critical signals, everything from immune-boosting cytokines to growth hormones, that all use this exact JAK-STAT system to tell our cells what to do. And let's look at a couple of fantastic examples. Take the hormone prolactin. It uses JAK1, JAK2, and STAT5 to tell cells in breast tissue, hey, start producing milk proteins. Or how about erythropoietin? You might know it as EPO. It uses JAK1 and STAT5 to signal the body to make more red blood cells. I mean, these are fundamental, everyday things our bodies just do, and it's all thanks to this pathway.
But you know, a system this powerful, a system that controls things as important as cell growth, well, it also has a dark side. What happens when this perfectly tuned messaging service gets stuck in the on position and the signals just don't stop? This kind of overactivation can happen in a few ways. Sometimes the cell just makes way too many receptors, so it becomes hypersensitive. In certain leukemias, the problem is that the cell is making way too many of the STAT proteins themselves. And in other cancers like melanoma or head and neck tumors, you have these other rogue kinases that hijack the system, turning on STATs even when there's no signal. But in every single one of those cases, the result is the same: a constant, non-stop on signal that just drives uncontrolled cell growth.
So you see the JAK-STAT pathway is a true double-edged sword. It's the architect that builds our bodies and the general that leads our immune system. But when it goes haywire, it can become an engine for disease. Which really leaves us with one profound final thought. If we could really learn to control this fundamental switch, to turn it up when we need to fight a disease or dial it way down to stop a cancer, what kind of medical miracles would suddenly be within our reach?